just continue, we can think about this literally in a kind of goalpost way. So let's just take the life expectancy index. So we see that the lower goalpost is 20 years. So we're not really considering anything less than 20 years. The upper goalpost, in contrast, is 83.6 years. This was the highest life expectancy of any country, so it's thought of as an aspirational target that you might try to reach if you're a developing country, for example. And then we see the particular case of Ghana, which has a life expectancy of 64.6. And so this ratio of 64.6 minus 20, or 44.6, divided by the overall amount of years between the goalposts of 20 and 83.6, or in other words, 63.6, gives us, as a result, our life expectancy index. 64.6 minus 20, or 44.6, divided by this amount, which is 63.6. And that gives you your index of 0.7, about 70% of the way from the lower index to the goal. And so that's a way of seeing visually, if you want, what these ratios are doing. So then we have the mean years of school sub-index, and in this case, it's considered possible that the country might have 0 years of school as an approximation. There were some countries that were colonies and at the time of their independence had very low average education. That may be a reason for the case for writing 0. The country had 7 years of schooling, and so there's 7 years above 0, and so that the upper goalpost was given at 13.3, the highest in the world at that time was the United States, which had, on average, in its population in that year, 13.3 years of schooling, again, on average. So in this case, we're doing something very, very similar. The goalposts, in this case, run from 0 up to a maximum of 13.3. For the case of Ghana, it reaches a level of 7, so that as a result, we take 7 divided by 13.3, and that gives us 0.527. So in other words, with their 7 years of schooling, they're a little more than halfway toward the goalpost that they're striving for. Similarly, we have the expected years of schooling sub-index. Here they were expected to achieve 11.4 years of schooling per person on average among the children who are about to come into school. And so they have an aspirational level of 18. This is not a real country's level. It's you can think of it as, if we thought of the goal of having everybody in the society have 18 years of school, that means everybody has a 2 years master's degree or something like that. The schooling times differ a little bit from country to country. And of course, you'll never have everybody in a country having a master's degree, but I suppose they're averaging in people with PhDs. You can imagine something like that. And so in this regard, they're 63% approximately of the way to the goalpost. So then they take these two parts, the schooling subindex and the expected schooling, and using the geometric mean, they multiply those two indexes together, and they take the square root. Square root because there are two of these. And you get an index of 0.596. So overall, they're about 60% of the way to the goal. And then next we have the income index. And so we start with Ghana's index of 1,684, and the lower goalpost is 100, because that's the lowest estimate that any country is thought to have had on a per capita income in known history. This was the case for Zimbabwe in 1 year. A society living on this amount of income would die out. You can only do this maybe for a short period of time because you're living on your assets such as your grain storage and so on. So they then took as their upper aspirational target the highest income of any country in that year in income per capita, $87,000 plus. I think it was Luxembourg, we can look it up. And again, the lower goalpost is 100. But notice that in order to allow for diminishing marginal utility, in each of these cases, one doesn't just use the numbers, but rather one uses the natural log of income. So that with the natural log of income, we have a way of representing diminishing marginal utility, in which income is given here on the x-axis, but the natural log of income is given on the y-axis. And so what we can see in this case is that there really is a dramatic effect of using the diminishing marginal utility through this log. That is to say, for the overall case, the highest income country is found in its index looking at the log of 100 as the lower goalpost, but it reaches the upper goalpost, which is the natural log of 87,000 and a few extra dollars. Right? For the case of Ghana, they start again with this lower goalpost of 100, but they only have $1,684. But we're taking the logs. So the net result is that they come out already 41.7% of the way to the top. And so that we have Ghana here with their 0.417 rate, this going from 0 to 1 corresponding to those logs. So that tells us something about the strength of the diminishing marginal utility incorporated here. Then for the overall index, you multiply these three subindices together and take the cube root, or it's exactly the same thing. You take the individual indices, you take the cube root of each of them, and then you multiply the three together, and then you find out that Ghana has a human development index of 0.558. And so then the question is, how do you classify this? And so, like in a few other cases, there are 4 classification levels that the UNDP uses. The first is low human development. That's everything from just below 549.549 and lower, all the way to 0. That represents low human development. Then from 0.55 until just below 0.7, we have medium human development. You can see that with Ghana at 0.558, they just make it over the border there from being, instead of being low human development, they're classified as medium human development, just over that border. Then for high income, rather than high human development, it runs from 0.7 to 0.8 basically, and then very high human development is classified as between 0.8 and 1. So that's the range here. There's 4 classifications. So I'll stop here and we'll proceed in a moment.